involved in forming, developing the ideals and concepts for the Black Panther Party. And they had to get permission from his mother for him to join the Black Panther Party. Because I think he was 15 and a half years old, about your age, young lady's age, young folks that age, when he came into the party. And so there were many young people who were members of the Black Panther Party. That was the youth movement in here. The average age was 15, 16, 17, 18 years of age. I think I came in around January of late January 1967. That's about 3.5 months after the organization started. And the average age was, at first cadre was teenagers. Then you had myself, I think I was about going on 21, going on 22. Huey Newton was 23. Bobby Seale was the old man. And Elbert Dickman Howard was about 28, 29 years of age. So you understand this first cadre of Panthers and many who came in that first pioneering aspect of the party, 6 months to a year, with youth. It was driven by youth. A lot of people don't know that the symbolism of the Panther itself comes from the South. It comes from the South during the 1965 when you had the Voters' Rights Act was passed. You had SNCC, or Student Unified Coordinating Committee, who went south and were organizing the farmers, the sharecroppers, all those who couldn't read and write, and teaching them and educating them and enlightening them about voting. They did this many places in the South, but particularly in Lowndes County, Alabama. And what happened is that the racists ran the politics of Lowndes County, but they were only 20% of the county. 80% was black. It was 15,000 people who populated the county. They had no rights. They had no rights at all, even though it's similar to maybe you could say contemporary times in Ferguson, where the population of Ferguson is still 63%, but racists control politics and everything else of the county. Well, the same thing in Lowndes County, Alabama. So what happened is they began to become enlightened, and the white racists had this rooster, a crop, as their symbol, icon for their organization. So blacks had to, in order to be a political party, you had to have an icon in that county. So they seen the high school sports teams, like you see the different animals and stuff, and they chose a panther. So that symbol became the symbol for the Lowndes County Freedom Organization. They didn't want to be either Democrats, they didn't want to be Republicans. They didn't want to be associated with either one. So this now started that organization. And so the Panther comes up from the South during the Civil Rights Movement during that period, which a lot of people are becoming aware of and talking about, but before, a lot of people weren't aware of it. Even when you go to campuses now, talk to a lot of folks, they're not aware of it. And so you try to connect it and show that it has a long history. But it was the Black Panther Party for self-defense that brought it to prominence in the North. I recall when we used to work on the newspaper, the Black Panther Party newspaper, out of Eldridge Cleaver's apartment, before we even had a headquarters or anything in San Francisco. I remember Huey Newton coming over one evening after we had been working on the paper and mentioned, because Eldridge Cleaver had began to work with the Black Panther Party, and he was going to Atlanta. And so out of respect for what we had for SNCC and Stokely Carmichael, H. Rabbi, and all those folks during that period, he wanted to make sure that we got permission from them to continue using the symbol of the Panther. Because they used to sit a lot during SNCC during that time. They used to make big posters. And so they agreed, they said it was no problem. So when we used it, it was a big fat panther. And Huey said, Mel, it looks too lean. We want to make it a little punier, make it like it's hungry and stuff like that. So that was my job to lean it down a little bit. And so that became the symbol that you're seeing. Like over years, it has been refined. Other people have interpreted them in their own way and what have you. But that became the foundation of the Black Panther Party. And of course, we had the 10-point platform and program. But what we want, what we believed in. And that was basically a reflection of many of the artworks and stuff that people may have seen during that time. In the early days when I did the artwork for the Panthers, first started doing the artwork for the Panthers, Huey Newton and Bobby Seale used to make sure to check the work and make sure I understood the politics. Once they seen I understood the politics, and I had the green light to create whatever I chose to create during that period of time. And so in the party was a small group that evolved and developed. It had connection. Matter of fact, a lot of people don't know it had an advisory committee connected to some middle-class blacks who they used to connect with and communicate with on regards to political issues and ideological struggles in relation to the community itself. There was Ruth Beckford, a well-known African-American dancer who done it back in the day, who was on the advisory committee. She was the one who suggested that we have the first breakfast program out of her minister's church, which the church is on 27th and West, right across the street where it used to be a safe lane, now it's an auto shop. And so that's where we had our first breakfast program. Our Father Earl Neal, who was an African-American minister, who later went on to work with Desmond Tutu for many years in South Africa in the 1980s. And so that was where we had the George Jackson's funeral, the Panther who became who wanted to join the party while he was in prison during that time. He started the first chapter of the Black Panther Party inside the prison, in San Quentin prison. So this is where we had our first breakfast program. Right across the street where there was that used to be that auto store, which used to be a Safeway. We used to boycott that store because demanding that they have more black access and people working in the community there. But also, when the Cesar Chavez, United Farm Workers, were protesting that store one time in regards to unionizing and what have you, they called us to come and help them there at that same location, which we did. We helped them close it down and helped them get their grievances met during that period. So we've always been connected to social activism in the community in many, many ways.
Thank you.
Thank you. I don't know if there's any other things that folks would like to know about. Of course, there's a lot to be said, about 12th and over there on 12th and Peralta. It's where we had one of the first headquarters in Oakland. Then we went to right across the street from La Pena, directly across the street. That used to be where I think used to be a Lawyers Guild. I'm not sure if it's still there. That used to be our headquarters at one time. Then we moved from there. Then we moved to East Oakland, where we had 85th and International Way. It used to be 85th and East 14th. We used to have right on the corner where J. Alfred Smith and the church is all at. Well, that office used to be there. When we no longer were disbanding and closing down the headquarters, we gave that building to J. Alfred Smith and them just for the cost, because they had always been in solidarity and support of the Panthers. So we gave them that. He always talks about how the Panthers gave him that building, and we gave a lot of the printing operation stuff that we had. We gave it to the African liberation movements in Africa doing that also as well. We, at one point, we had Panthers in exile who couldn't come back to this country.
I was going to ask a question, I want to let you finish your thought. Okay. I was